run a small software firm called Balderdash. We do Node.js consulting and so forth. I'm on GitHub, I'm on Twitter, etc. You can find me if you want to follow what I'm doing. But right now I'm going to talk about, use myself almost as a case study for like the just totally ridiculous and crazy career path that I've had ever since I started contributing seriously to open source. And I'm trying to draw some lessons from that, generalize some things, and figure out what I've learned in this process might be of interest to other people. All right, so general outline of what I'm going to talk about. Talk about myself, because I'm up here and I know most about myself. Talk about the open source economy, how open source can flow into an actual profitable, lucrative career, and how contributing to that and injecting yourself into that world can be a really valuable experience. I know a lot of us here contribute to open source anyway, but it's a good reminder, I think, in a good sort of helpful way to inspire people to contribute more. If I can also convince you that you're gonna make money doing it. 3, I have some. This layout right here is misleading, but 3, I have some questions that I think, introspective type questions that I think are good to ask yourself as you're sort of sorting out where you want to go with your career, what types of things are valuable spends of your time, and which things maybe aren't. And 4, how to actually utilize all of this to make money, or profit could be anything, right? If your goal is to solve some problem that's never been solved, or just build some application for your own purposes, building it in a cave by yourself, even if you're going to be the primary user, is not the best way to do it. It's going to be way more fun to go out into the world and find other people who care about the same stuff you do. So, okay, this is the part where I talk about myself. I live in Norfolk, Virginia. That's Balderdash. Woo! All right. That's my team back there, obligatory clapping for me. We've got an office. We're a real place. We do real things. We have a lot of fun. So this is my resume. I bought a really big book from Books A Million before I had any money. My mom bought it for me. And I convinced her, and I had this vague idea that like C++ was like a thing that people were doing in the real world. So I'm like, yeah, I should just get this real big book and just like read it and learn C++. Bad idea. My brain probably wasn't able to grasp most of the concepts, but I was able to write little programs that did useless stuff. But it was a fun exercise. I went to college, got a CS degree. Started a bunch of failed businesses in college, and so then I just left college with an even more urgent need to make money. I'm really bad. I'm a really bad employee. I've learned this myself the hard way, and I think I'm like a lot of people though, because I've worked with other people who are terrible employees for some reason, and because I think we're developers. So we're all hired anyway, right? If we know how to code, and you have any sort of engineering background, or if you've learned stuff yourself, you can get a job writing code, even if you're terrible. So I think I'm in that category. I feel like I'm pretty decent at writing code, but I'm bad at being an employee. I'm bad at like being productive in that environment, and I could contribute to open source. So I have some testimonials. From some people I know. Ryan Quinn, unfortunately, isn't here, but like the second month I hired him, he gave me this feedback, which if you want to call it feedback, then that's fine. But it was really interesting, actually, because he literally said this. He said, "You're actually really terrible at your job. What are you doing?" And then he said, "Can we hire like a real project manager who actually knows how to manage projects?" because I'd never been. He's right. I'd never been a project manager before, and now I'm in a position where I'm managing a business, and we have a ton of different projects. So I'm actually managing multiple things. And this was earlier this year when we were just getting started, and was not very good at it. Also, my mom, every time I tell her that I quit or get some new job, she's very supportive, and she ultimately doesn't care. She doesn't care, like, oh, you're working on some new thing. I'm as long as you like what you're doing, that's good enough for me. So those are some things that people say about me. Talk about open source, because that's really what this whole kind of my whole thesis kind of orbits around open source. So first, consulting. These are some of the differences between working for a traditional kind of software company or another company where you're a department in them. If you're a consultant, or if you're a team of consultants, you don't get paid for showing up. You get paid for doing things. You have lots of customers. Your customers are your bosses. And because you have lots of them, if you don't like one, you can get rid of them and not have to find a new job. You just make less money temporarily. It's a nice distinction. And the bottom one is important. If you start out alone, which depending on if you want to start a business, if you're entrepreneurial, if you want to start some open source project, you can either start alone, or you can find a group of people in real life and go that route. But as you become more busy, instead of just working more and trying to be like the superhero in your company, you can just work the same amount but hire other people to work with you. This is really cool when you find a project or a business that other people care about it in the same way you do. It's a good way to meet other people that way. Open source economy, there's some parallels here. So you build up your reputation, your networking, your kind of stature, your clout in open source land by doing things. That's the same bullet point as the first one in the consultant one. And when I say consultant, I really just mean like someone who's unemployed but still makes money. I feel like I fall in that category. Open source is based on results. You've got to do stuff. You commit code. You build some new project. You're good at reviewing other people's contributions. You're good at moderating discussions in the issues, things like that. And once you're there enough, and people kind of get used to you, and you meet other people online, and then you can go to conferences like this and put faces to like GitHub handles and Twitter handles and so forth. That's when you actually begin to trust people. This isn't really the case when you're trying to get hired at a company. Every company, like the interview process at most companies is just complete voodoo. Like they studies show they decide whether they want to hire you in the first 19 seconds or something, and it's terrible. So you end up working with a bunch of people who were hired in the first 20 seconds of them seeing you. And so like you look like the person interviewing you, right? Then they're going to immediately like you more because we're flawed human beings. I already covered the other two things. Although the bottom thing is important, I think. Open source software, if you look at it kind of academically, at a really macro level, it looks like this magical, communistic sort of symbiotic magic land where everyone's just doing everything for free, and let's just all build things for the good of the community and all this stuff. But if you actually zoom in and witness the mechanics of how everything's working, everyone is super selfish. They want to do what they want to do, or they're trying to use it as a means to some end to make money or to become famous. Like if you build some open source project with a gazillion GitHub stars, right? And that's like a strange form of currency in our niche of the world, and it's pretty cool. I mean, everyone is competing. There are tons of competing projects. There's nowhere on GitHub or in open source land, no one project that rules them all, except for maybe Linux. That's sort of the granddaddy of everything. 3. This is like, these are some of these are like banal platitudes, just kind of pointless cliche advice, but these kind of flow into some other things I'm talking about also. If you're bad at stuff, you can do it if you want, but my general feeling is that, to use another cliche, like catching a falling knife is painful. If you're gonna be swimming upstream or anything else like that where the odds are against you, don't do them unless you like really care about them. Unless you've gone your whole life, you're like, I really want to do this one thing that I've never done, I've never experienced, and I want to learn it. Cool, go do that, and become not bad at it, right? But if you're bad at stuff and you're never going to get good at it, don't waste your time, right? Focus on things you care about and things that you love, and hopefully the overlap of things that you're good at and things that you like doing, that will grow over time. I talked about earlier, we're strongly incentivized inside of companies to try to save the day when other people won't or can't. Every business has problems, especially in software where like nobody really knows what they're doing. It's really enticing to say, you know what, I'm gonna bite the bullet. I'm going to stay up all night. I'm going to make our delivery happen on Monday or whatever. I'm going to stay up over the weekend. Like, guess what? All deadlines are bullshit anyway. At some level of every company, all you have to do is go up high enough. You never reach a point where the deadline is actually something important. It's just you just go all the way, and it's everybody making up dates the whole way. There's never any, well, this delivery has to happen when these planets align or the world's going to explode. That's never going to happen. Deadlines are always crap. So if you're going to stay up all night to try to help your boss look good to their boss so that they look good, it's all crap all the way down. Don't do it, because you're doing yourself a disservice, because guess what? You just stayed up all night, you made some delivery happen, you did the work of 4 people in 2 days, and because you didn't get any sleep. First of all, you probably wrote a bunch of crappy code that you're going to have to maintain forever. And now you've inflated the expectations of yourself to everyone around you forever. You're screwed. You have to do this all the time. It's a bad place to be. It's another kind of vortex, right? The imposter vortex, something I think we talked about a lot at this conference, which is good. I have a slightly different way of looking at it, though. I think that a lot of the popular lore around imposter syndrome revolves around, you're actually really good at what you do deep down inside. You just don't realize it. And looking at everyone around you and look at them do stuff, you're seeing that as well, they're so successful, but I don't feel that way, so I don't know how to get there. To me, imposter syndrome is actually the way I sort of avoid this whole process is that I decided several years ago that nobody actually has any clue what's going on. We're all just sort of stumbling and bumping around in the world in this really thin air soup that we're all in together that's keeping us alive. And we're just trying to figure it out, right? I happen to have a degree from somewhere, and the piece of paper says, great, you learned a bunch of stuff. Good for you. But what employers see is, oh, this person knows the stuff we need them to know. No, nobody knows anything. Our job is to figure stuff out. It's not to know what we're doing. Looking at it that way, I don't feel like an imposter being up here talking to you about all this stuff, because I'm trying to say that I don't know what I'm doing, right? That's my goal here. And if I can get up and make a PowerPoint presentation, it's not even called PowerPoint, it's something else, about this, next time you're feeling apprehensive or blocked by something that's abstract, like an emotion or a certain disposition toward feeling like you shouldn't start something because why bother? It's fun. Just do stuff because it's fun. And in the open source world, you'll find other people who want to do the same thing and care about the same stuff. it turns out that job titles are actually marketing terms. Job titles don't confer or convey expertise or knowledge. They're designed to make people feel good and do hard work at their jobs, right? My first job out of college was working for a Wall Street firm, and they had this interesting take on how to get productivity out of people, and it wasn't good. The mindset is, or this isn't general, but we heard people talk about this a lot. If you get somebody to work 80 hours a week for a year, and then they get burned out, that sucks, right? Because then you lose some valuable person. That knowledge that's been built up over that year is now going somewhere else. You lose this continuity. But to a lot of managers, that's fine, because for that year you got 2 people for 1, and they're burnt out and they're going to leave and go somewhere else. But guess what? You can find somebody else who's willing to do that. There's this endless line of people you can always hire to be superheroes and try to get that next job title, that next promotion for the 4% raise or whatever. Probably whatever company you work for, they have so much money. There's so much money. This is America. It turns out that money is everywhere except for where it needs to be. There's tons of it everywhere, except it's not applied to the right things. It's sitting in corporate bank accounts, and all these companies are just buying treasuries because they don't have anywhere else to put their money. They're paying it out as dividends and so forth, which is great. If you should build up your career and buy stocks and 401k and all that, but that'll be good for you. But while you're working there, they're incentivized to pay you as little as possible while keeping you happy and feeling important. I think the open source world, back to this meritocratic mindset of produce results, hang out with people, network. It's a much more direct path toward doing what you're supposed to be doing instead of playing some corporate game. This is sort of how we get there, right? If we want to do what we want to do, you could start moonlighting, right? If you work somewhere now, if you're unemployed, then that's great, right? You have so much time and freedom to peer above all the crap and soberly evaluate these sorts of things on your own. You look for a job, right? So you can pay your bills and stuff. But it's good to take a step back and think about what's out there and realize that open source is actually a very viable path toward the type of career I think that a lot of us want, but we're not quite willing to make the leap, right? The boat's leaving the dock sort of thing, and you've got one foot over here, and you're trying to make sure that the boat doesn't leave, and then you fall in the water. Striking that balance is important. Commit everything. This is just how you exist as much as possible, right? You want to inflict your ideas on the world, and that sounds like a violent thing, but by putting yourself out there and by logging everything you do in software, if you're a software developer, don't hold back. Just commit everything. Push everything. I wrote some stupid little thing, or I wrote some list of ideas that I have. Well, if someone has a similar idea as you, they're going to Google it and find your project and then start asking you about, hey, what are your thoughts here? Can I do this or this? I think I can do this better. Can I submit a pull request? Yeah, great, right? Then you find a team sort of naturally through the open source community process who all care about the same thing. That's really cool. Finding people who care about the same thing as you, not just having a bunch of people hired and planted on this team coincident to you, geoproximal to your person. It's much more magical, maybe. I don't know what the word is. It's not forced. There's something having things naturally arise from these great initial conditions has it's cool in and of itself. Having things forced, sure, you can learn to get along and build rapport with your team, But doing this naturally in open source, finding people who care about the thing you care about before they're forced to do it is really neat. So right, I already mentioned this. The second point is important, and this goes back to some of the things I was talking about near the beginning, is don't try to be good at everything, right? If you think you're good at everything, you're probably wrong and going to create a huge mess for everyone around you. So just stop that, right? Don't try to be a hero. Try to be good at things you care about. And by caring about them and by wanting to improve, that's all that matters. You'll get there, right? If you care about stuff, you don't need to know everything up front. Again, none of us in this room or in this building or in this industry, none of us are paid to know stuff before we're doing it. We're paid to figure it out as we go, because nobody knows how to do this stuff. It's software. We're engineers. We're engineering stuff. We're building new things. If it were already done, it wouldn't be the same, right? It wouldn't matter that we could figure stuff out. We'd be some other field. This is a kind of an aggrandizing statement a little bit. Don't go flip a table. Well, if you do, make sure no one else is around. But video it and put it on YouTube, maybe. In the meantime, contributing to open source is fun. Not everyone has a ton of time after work to just continue to sit at your computer and write code. But I think one of the things that we get sucked into is, again, I bet very few of us in here work only 40 hours a week. And most of us don't get paid for those extra hours. You're just giving your company money by doing that. They have plenty of money that they're not giving to you. So there's any reason for you to feel loyal in that way. Unless you really like what you're doing. And you know what? If you don't care how much you're getting paid and you really love it, keep going. That's what we're focusing on here, is doing what you want to do. You can look for other jobs in the meantime. If you just want to get paid more while you're doing stuff, even if you like what you're doing, go find another job offer and negotiate. It's a great way to unlock value that's there already, but that you can't quite unearth because you're in some sort of pay band or whatever your company. Or if they don't want to give you a raise, you can just leave and go get more money somewhere else, right? You'll make the same sorts of friends that you currently have in your current company. I know a lot of us are nervous about contributing. There's this on Twitter. There's this thing called Your First PR, your first pull request. This is how to start getting into GitHub. It looks for pull request or issues in GitHub that are accommodating to a first-time GitHub user or a new developer, or maybe you're not developing anything at all. Maybe you're improving documentation or something like that. This is a good way to get started. I recommend if you're not out on GitHub or some other open source community website, take a look at this. It's pretty neat. I actually went back and there's another website. It's like, what was your first pull request ever? And I went in that and it was like really nostalgic. It was like something with Google Web Toolkit that I don't know. I don't remember what I did, but man, I wish I was over there. Holy crap. Is Twitter exploding? Did they announce some other amazing thing? This is my goal. Right? We can all do stuff we don't know how to do because we lose track of the fact that we do this every day anyway. We're all doing stuff we don't know how to do. I didn't know any of the words I was going to say up here until I'm up here. Right? That can be extended to anything. Right? I don't know what all the code is going to look like for something I'm going to build. I might not even know what I'm going to build, but I'm going to work through it both in my head on paper and then in the community. Get that feedback loop started and just do stuff, right? It doesn't matter if maybe you build something and nobody uses it, right? That's fine. Nothing is a waste of time if you get practice and you're able to hone your skills in the meantime. If you have fun, awesome, right? Having fun has its own value. This is my last slide, by the way. I think that if you're interested in, it actually is my last slide. Okay, making sure. I'm going to go back to the front. If you have questions about anything, I'm on Twitter or GitHub. Feel free to contribute to any of my projects, right? Because again, open source, I'm selfish, right? I want people to contribute to my stuff. And you never know. Once you build up this reputation on GitHub, you can start looking at, you get known, right? I can look around GitHub and around the community and around here and think, oh yeah, that's that person from GitHub. And once you are that vertex in this social connection that people are making as they go throughout their lives and their career, you become more valuable, right? Opportunities actually do come from other people. It matters how hard you work and who you know. So I think in our industry, open source is the best way to leverage that sort of networking process. You don't want to toil in obscurity, and it's good to get out there and do things that maybe you're not comfortable with, but you'll get there. That's it. You can be the CEO of anything you want, especially if you're unqualified.